I think to answer that question, we need to just maybe go back and look at the impact of drought on the farmers themselves. Drought has had a tremendous impact on the farming sector in South Africa.
Across the board.
Across the board, I'm telling you, across the value chain, right from the farmer, that is from the gate of the farm, to the end user of the products, which is a consumer, you and I. From the farmer's side, we've noticed that the land or crop land that was cultivated in the passing season, it has gone down by 21%. And also the output has also followed the same trend, declining by almost 25%. And this has a tremendous impact now on the food security. But not only that, we also noticed that food prices inflated because of that. And you would remember that 15% of the CPI constitute or represents the agricultural food, and therefore the end user is really impacted by this. And if we look at the crop production, and you'd see that during the 2015-2016 season, it has gone down by something like I said, 25%. And if you look at the livestock production, it's very bad in there, because we've seen a lot of livestock like cattle, sheep dying. We don't have exactly the accurate figure, but it is estimated that only in KZN, 40,000 cows, cattle died during the last season, you know. And we've also noticed that there was a spike in the slaughter rate.
Yes.
Yeah, and we estimate that the slaughter for cattle has gone up by around 23%. Sheep has gone up by around 37%, and pigs about 12%. So the farmers, they are forced now to actually slaughter to make sure that their livestock, they do not die.
And obviously from that perspective, when there's more meat on the table, then obviously the prices come down for the consumer. Or
One
not.
would look at it like that, but it's not really that, because the demand for meat under the conditions is actually more, because most animals, rather than being slaughtered, have died. So the meat prices have gone up slightly, but compared to all agriculture or other foods, have stayed a little bit low.
Now, let's go back to the point in terms of the drought relief funds.
Yes.
Are you feeling sidelined?
To a certain extent, yes, we are feeling a bit sidelined.
Why?
As AGRI-SA, we have gone to government, and we have proposed to government that government should at least support the farmers under this cloud of drought. And
But isn't all farmers then being looked after in this particular
all
relief?
farmers, when we were speaking to the government, we were speaking not only for the commercial farmers, we're speaking for all farmers across. Remember, agriculture in South Africa, whether you are smallholder or commercial, you contribute towards the sector, and you were affected by the drought as well. So when we were talking to government, we were talking for the farmers across. And what we proposed to the government was at least an interest subsidy of 3%. And what interest subsidy does, and it is something that has been implemented by numerous governments that have been under fiscal pressure when facing these natural disasters. They have implemented this. First, you need that when you need the interest subsidy when you have a problem with the carry debt, with the carry-over debt. That is the debt that has been incurred because of failure in crop outputs. And you also need it to facilitate the production for the next coming season. So that is why we needed that from government. Yes, government has pledged or has given an amount of 212 million. But where that has gone, we still have to see exactly where did it end up. We don't know exactly who the money has actually helped, because we don't have it on our records.
So black farmers and subsistence farmers, you are saying as AGRI-SA, they are getting more support from government.
We're not saying that. Remember, these farmers are facing a lot of challenges, and drought just added on that. There's just so many challenges that they are facing. And to be honest with you, 250 million, it's actually a drop in the ocean compared to what these farmers need, because it would just help just a small number of farmers.
What happens in the case when we have a good year, when there's good rains and there's enough food for everybody? Does the farmers ever pay this money back to government, that government pledges in this case?
Yes, you gotta look at it not in that way. Does farmers pay back the money? The commercial farmers, of course, they don't necessarily get money from the government. They get it through loans from the banks.
Yes.
And of course, the smallholder farmers, to a certain extent, they do get what we call not funding grants from the government. So they don't necessarily need to pay that back.
But you are calling for this interest subsidy of 3%, which will help the commercial farmers to survive.
And that will keep them in par and keep them in business and keep them in solvency position as well.
What is that 3% substitute?
Well, it's substitute for food security. That's the main thing here. It's substitute for food security. We have to ensure that South Africa remains the net exporter of food, which is currently at the moment. So we have to make sure that is sustained and South Africa remains the net exporter of food.